So welcome, I've turned on the recording. This is our CIS 117. It's our week 2 live lecture and hangout. So kind of in the interim, our Monday when both week 1 work is still open before the due date on Tuesday, and goodness, we're more than a week out for our week 2 due dates, so the following Tuesday or beyond. So I have to double check those. So I'm here with Shelly, and we're looking at our SQL servers. What I have up, actually, the SQL Server Management Studio. We don't actually see the database engine. And so this is our query editor. And this is what we will use to compose our queries to solve our exercises this term. The database happens to be running on the same computer that I'm running the SQL Server Management Studio on. But in theory, this SQL Server actually could be placed anywhere in the world that I have network accessible. And while I'm running it on a fairly small laptop, it could be scaled up with petabytes of hard disk drive and many gigabytes of RAM and multiple processors until we would have a beast that would handle tens of thousands of simultaneous connections and an incredible number of transactions per second and all that kind of stuff. So this is a step up from work you may have done previously with Microsoft Access, in that this really scales. Microsoft Access does what it does through file sharing and locking, and in theory it can scale to about 20 users. In practice, if you have a heavily used database, maybe 4 or 5 users on a local area network is about as far as you can push it. So SQL Server is playing with the big boys and girls. It is an industrial strength tool, and even though we're running a fairly small instance, these are the same toys that we would use at the enterprise level, running some really humongous apps. So it's fun to play with the big the professional toys. So here we are. Now, what I like to do in addressing the questions is, or to lecture on this, is I like to go and take a look at what your homework is. So if I look at our homework, question number 1 says something like this, and I have created all of our exercises to be parallel to what we have in the textbook. So this number 2 here is actually from the current chapter. That's the TAL exercise number 2, TAL Distributors Database, and this one is my parallel example. And you'll see that what I've done here is the original problem is using the HCIT database, list all the rows and columns for the complete person table. And so the idea here is we're doing a select star, okay, to get everything. And I have something that requires a similar solution for this problem statement, also will require a select star. Okay, so I can come in here and use the TAL database, and I can say select star. Star is a wild card. It's like a one-eyed joker in poker. He's going to match anything. He's anything you need him to be. Matches all possible combinations. So so all fields, and that's an easy way rather than having to list all the fields individually, especially if you've got a large table with 40 or 50 fields. That's a typing exercise in itself. And I need to say from what table. And so we're going to go get this from the orders table. And notice that IntelliSense is kicked in. So I could actually come down here and click orders. And then I can end the batch or command with a semicolon. And if I go ahead and run that, then these are all of the fields and all of the rows that are found in the orders table. So pretty straightforward right there. and I get a status that says the query is executed. It tells me how many rows it took and essentially how much time. We're dealing with some pretty small sample databases, so a lot of times, unless we get out to expand this out to see, beyond milliseconds, it's going to be, very, very small numbers, and sometimes like something like this that's all on, it's just this one's an easy table scan because I didn't tell it to order it. It's going to give it to me in, essentially 0 seconds of processing time. It isn't really 0, but in terms of what the query optimizer had to do, there wasn't much work to it.
You could scale it. I mean, you could tell it to order it in numbers above this, or I mean, you could really more precisely tell it exactly what you want to do.
Right. So, and we were talking about that earlier. And I see Lene's in, but maybe, I don't know if she's got her, if I unmute you, Lene, is your mic back for us, or you're still hanging out in the silent zone?
I'm texting her too. Okay, so I got a stupid error for the SQL Server 2014 setup.
And what is the error that you got?
It says the following error has occurred. Wait on the database engine recovery handle failed. Check the SQL Server error log for potential causes.
Okay. And are you working on your own machine, or are you working with a cloud machine?
No, I'm working on my own machine.
Okay. So usually I see that when I've changed some major configuration things. If you retry it, that may work. The other thing that has it already installed, or is it still in the installation process?
It was in the installation process.
Okay. We can do this if you would like. We can share out. I can make you the presenter, and you can share out your screen if you want to show me, and we'll take a look at what that is. Did it have a retry, or is it a fatal error?
It just says there's no retry. It just says okay.
Tell it okay, and let's see where it goes.
Please wait while Microsoft SQL Server process continues.
Okay, so it sounds like it was a recoverable issue, and so we'll let that run. And then if it hits another snag, let us know. We can do some troubleshooting or some problem solving together.
Okay, and Lene is asking what the number is again, so that she can call in.
Sure. So here's the call-in number.
Okay.
And what you can do is you can call into that number. And so if you don't have a working microphone and whatnot, so you can be heard, or don't have a webcam. And so let me see if I have I'm not sure on this new phone if I may not have put in the Zoom app, but I can still, oh, I did. Okay, so I've got my Zoom on my smartphone. I can actually use the Zoom app and come in with a second connection here.
Can you give me that number one more time so I can send it to her?
Yeah, it should be in the chat box. So, and I put the chat box right here in the middle of my screen. Are you seeing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me do this. I'll just demonstrate the audio. We'll probably get a terrible echo when I do this, but we'll make sure that this works. If I go into my smartphone and I dial 1-646-558-8656 and call. Okay, so it's prompting me for my meeting ID, and my meeting ID is 483-312-0067, and I got that from the course announcement that I sent earlier. So let me go ahead and mention that. Okay. All right, so you're going to get a terrible echo there if I have my headset up there. But you see I've got my my Bluetooth and my phone connected. And so if you don't have a working computer microphone. Okay, that's enough.
I'm sorry.
No worries. Are you? Oh, I hear you. Great. Okay, so I just dropped my phone connection. So good. All right. So before we got distracted with the error messages, Shelley had asked the question about the select, and I'm going to go ahead and mute you for just a moment. Yeah. So I'm getting a lot of echo. You can unmute yourself or let me know with the chat box if you need to be unmuted. But that happens sometimes with the phone connections. I don't know why, but they seem to echo a lot more. But the question Shelley had asked was, okay, so you've created this query script that uses the TAL database and it selects everything from the orders table. Can we then add to that and manipulate? So for instance, let's say I wanted to sort this by customer number. Notice that 126 appears at the top, and then later on there's another order in there. And indeed, I can say, I can add the clause order by customer number. And again, IntelliSense pops up to help me here. And so I can either use my mouse and point to it, or I can hit tab to select. And then if I run that again, now 126, now that's all the customer numbers are in order from smallest to largest. I can also turn that around. Ascending, which is what it's doing, is explicitly ASC, so this won't change it. But if I want to change from the default, I can change it to descending this way. Okay, we're going to be doing this kind of work in the weeks that are upcoming. So I don't know if we've started sorting in our first week. I think not. So don't get too bent out of shape or excited if I'm showing you a couple things and answering the questions that we haven't done yet. So the other thing that we can do is let's see. So let's say we didn't want all of the records. We could come in here and filter them with a where clause. So we could say, where order num is less than or equal to 51623. Okay. And we'll try that. I may have to quote that if that's. I'm thinking that's probably a numeric type. If it's not, I'll need to make it into a string with put single quotes around it. Let's give it a shot. Yeah. Okay. So now notice that all these are 51623 or lower. There are no numbers higher than that. We could see by inspection. Okay. So again, we didn't have to tell it step by step how to do that. We just had to describe the characteristics of the result set we'd like, and that's what makes SQL a fourth generation programming language. In that we have to provide the proper algebraic set notation kind of logic to get the result that we want, but we don't have to tell it procedurally step by step what the database has to do in order to provide that. So, great. Okay. All right. So I would be happy to go on and solve a lot of the questions from our current week 2 homework as parallels, so that you can see that. But really, the most important thing about these meetings is that I answer the questions that you guys have. I don't believe, and I'll double check, but I don't believe I got any mailbox questions or mailbag questions. I'll double check, and no. So nobody sent me any questions by email. But Lene and Shelley, what questions do you have? And let me make sure I've unmuted Lene here.
Well, basically for me, I'm just trying to get the installation process done so I can actually sit down and start doing the work. So.
Sure.
That's the same here.
Okay.
Just trying to get everything installed.
And Lene, have you started the process of installing? Do you have a Windows machine at home, Lene?
I do. I have a computer that a friend of mine put together for me, so it has Windows 10.
Okay. Okay, that should be a decent platform to do this. And have you started downloading the SQL Server Express? And you can use either the 2014 version or the 2016 version would be fine as well.
No, I plan on doing that this evening.
Okay.
Sorry, I had a final earlier today, so.
Yeah, I understand that they overlap your cohort. That's got to be kind of tough. A lot of burnout to trying to wrap up one course while you're starting the next. So I salute you. You're braver than I am. I don't think I could do that.
Actually, we had 3 courses going on.
Oh wow. So. I do have another way to use to access SQL Server this term. I mean, the obvious other way is you're welcome to have a lovely trip out to Santa Barbara. We'd love to see you. Santa Barbara is a lovely place to visit, but it may not be convenient for you to come, especially when you do get there. The Santa Barbara City College Business Communication Computer Lab hours may not be real conducive to the hours you personally like to work, and so that's not always an ideal solution. The other thing that you can do is we are a Amazon Web Services Academic Alliance partner. We participate in their AWS Educate program, and so if you go into our course shell, so here's a copy of our course shell, and let me go back to our home. You'll see that you can have, and usually they process this within 24 to 48 hours. They've been really good. You can have a free grant. You don't have to give them a credit card or anything. And they'll give you a $75 grant. If you do want to, are willing to give them a credit card number to secure it, I think they'll give you a $100 grant. But the $75 is plenty for all term long, probably for all year long, given the size of the machine that we're going to run. And so you can come in here, and you'll see that I have something obtaining your AWS Educate grant, and there's a document there that you can open. And let me see if I can preview it without opening it. Yeah. Okay, so this is the preview, and this tells you where to go and how to get your grant, and then you can follow the videos I've provided that will allow you to run a remote Windows computer, a virtual computer in the cloud that already has the software and the data for the databases all installed and set up. And that's particularly useful if students are having problems with their own local machine, or perhaps they have a Macintosh or a Chromebook or some other kind of computer that doesn't allow them to run Microsoft SQL Server. SQL Server now, there is a beta out for a Mac version, a native Mac version, but I am a little bit hesitant to jump into teaching the class on a beta version. I just didn't feel that that was responsible, likely to cause you more frustration than not. So my suggestion is, since the AWS grant process doesn't cost you anything and it's pretty quick, I would recommend everybody go ahead and apply for it, even if you don't use it, because then you'll be set up if you do need to use it or decide you would like to explore using the cloud as a computing platform. You're set up to do that. Okay.
Yeah, I applied for it, but I haven't heard from them yet. So all I got was the little, it's under review.
Okay, how long ago was that?
Well, I started installing it. Let me see, I was just looking at it. Today's the 13th, yesterday.
Okay, yeah, so generally they're usually within 24 to 48 hours, and that may be business days. I haven't counted to see if they actually process stuff on the weekends, because I'm not sure to what extent there's a human being involved in the approval of this, and how much of it just happens automatically or automagically.
Yeah, for myself, I had planned on just doing it on the computer. We have this beautiful Windows 10 with lots of room on it, and I thought that would be great. But every time I've tried to do it, I keep getting an error. So it may just work better for me to work in the cloud than it will on this unit. I don't know.
Okay, so we'll circle back to that, and I've made some videos about how to start it in the cloud and how to get your instance running and whatnot, but I'm happy to show it again. So I think what I'll do right now is let's meander through a few of the exercises. We'll get those in the recording, and then when you do have your working system, and again, these are all the week 2 exercises. The week 1 exercises are really simple, and it's not really testing your capability of coding SQL so much as it is to simply make sure that your environment works. And so I'll show you what the week 1 exercises involve. So I'm going to switch over here and use the HCIT database. Okay, and once I have executed that, use it. Once I've executed that, I don't have to keep repeating that. This query window now is in the HCIT database schema. Everything I do is going to be by default. If I look over here in my Object Explorer, make a little bit more room so you can see the table names, we can see that there's one called admissions, one called admissions diagnoses, diagnostic codes, labs, patient, and person. And the reason patient and person really, from a database normalization standpoint, could be squished into the same table. There's a one-to-one relationship between them. The reason that I split that out when I was thinking about this is if I have a patient data, which has a patient number, but does not have any of the financial or personally identifying characteristics of a person, of the individual, makes it real easy to allow people in with permission to do statistical analysis, centers of disease control studies, and those kind of studies, without ever having to worry about someone disclosing the private HIPAA information. We can, on an individual table, separate out the privileges. And if you take additional database courses, you'll learn you can control whether a person can see one field or another field, but it's awfully convenient just to separate them out entirely. And so what we're going to do in the first week's exercise, just to make sure everything's working, is we're going to issue a select command. We're going to say, give me all fields, and from, and then the table name. And we're going to do it for each table in turn. The exercise tells you which one in what order. But if I run that, and then, oops, got to spell it right. There we go.
Oh, nice.
And then there's also documentation about how I like to have your exercises documented. And I'll take a moment and explain why that is. So if I was going to document this for to turn it in, and let's say this was exercise 1, I'm going to turn in a Word document. So I'll create a new Word document. So I create a new Word document, and I'll call this assignment 1, and then I can just start numbering my exercises. And what I really want you to do, 2 things. Number 1, come and copy the exact text of the query and paste that in first. And then under that, you can make a screen snip. And I don't care whether you do it with a, just hit print screen in order to or alt print screen to capture the current window, or if you use the Windows snipping tool, the snipping tool is so handy, I have it pinned to my taskbar. So I'm going to open up the snipping tool, and I'm going to say new. And I'm going to make sure that all of the text for the query I wrote is visible in here. and that as many of the rows as I can get in reasonably to a screenshot and still make it readable are there. And so I'm going to grab that and copy it, and now come over to my Windows document, and Control V will paste it in. And so now I have the text, but I also have shown the instructor what I'm doing. Here's why I'm so picky about this, okay? I could really grade you off of this alone, but if I look at it and I'm like, wow, you know, this is really kind of complex and you've done something totally different, sometimes there are more than one way to solve the problem correctly, okay? And my brain is not good enough to always be able to parse it as well as your SQL Server engine. And so if you've got text here, if I need to, I can copy it and paste it into my SQL Server engine and then look at the results and kind of think about it. The other thing is, if this looks wrong, if I take the time, I could paste it in, run the result, and say, okay, can I give you at least partial credit for it? But that would take me so much time to grade. If I've got 10 or 15 problems for 10 or 15 or 30 students, it really isn't feasible. But if you have your screenshot here, I can look at that and go, okay, yes, you've made an error, but that's not a full point error, that's a half point error. I can give you half point credit. So if you follow the suggested format, I can give you, more easily assign partial credit. You're more likely to get credit, and it also documents pretty nicely for you what you've done. Visually, it's very easy to see, and I love it when the screenshot is large enough that my old eyes can read it, and it's got all of the text of the query, so it's not truncated or cut off, and also the results. This result had 1, 2, 3, 4 fields. All the fields are there, and yeah, we couldn't really get all of the columns. Usually, it's not important. If it was important, well, we could actually come back over to our results and scroll down so I can see just the top of 19 peeking out. I could scroll down here and then take another screenshot starting at 19, and I can make 2 or 3 screenshots. Generally, that's not going to be that important, but yeah, you can give me really good work product. So, and the easier it is for me to award the points, the more likely you are to get them, and I'm happy about that. I want you to get all the points that you're entitled to. So, just a note about the preparation and documentation. So back to week 1, all we're doing for week 1, so we did that for the admissions table. I can come up here and change that to the admissions diagnosis table. And I hit my down arrow. I don't know if you saw that. When I was starting to type it, and rather than picking it with the mouse, I hit the down arrow, and then I hit the tab key. That's a shortcut for the IntelliSense. It's a real time saver. And run that, and I do the same thing for that one, and then I can highlight this table, and I want to do the next table, which is diagnostic codes, and run it.
Wow.
And so really all we're doing here is you're proving to me and to yourself that your SQL Server engine is installed, it's working, you made a successful connection, and your data tables are there and they're loaded so that you can be successful for everything we do the rest of the term. And that's the whole point of the whole week 1. So, and again, for anybody who's looking at the recording here, this term we had, it's the first time we've taken HCIT cohort outside of normal just SBCC. Santa Barbara City College students. Our registration problem was a little rough. People have joined us. I had new students added today. And so I'm going to be flexible on our first week due dates. Beyond that, generally speaking, I don't accept late work in the class. It's such a short class, there just isn't time. But I kind of work like the IRS on emergency situations or problems. Let me know before the problem occurs. We can work out a payment plan. If you let me know afterwards, if I have to come looking for you, like if the IRS has to come looking for you, they're not very agreeable about working things out at that point. They just levy the penalties and chips fall where they may. I work kind of the same way. You can't always know if there's going to be an emergency that comes up, but let me know as soon after the event as possible. And again, don't make me come guessing or looking for it, because I worry about you guys. I want to see you guys succeed. So issues that come up, better know about them sooner than later, and see if we can work something out within the policies and the logistics that we have for the class. Okay, so let's just play with the interface here a little bit. I'd like to get on to looking at the week 2 exercises. I could just take and wipe this query window out and keep using it. I could also leave it in place and have a new query window. I can have multiple tabs up at once. This is kind of useful if you wanted to actually duplicate my parallel exercise and the one you're working on. Here's Beck's, here's the one I'm working on. Beck's, the one I'm working on. You go back and forth. Also, if you just need a clean query window, you can kill the old ones as well. Nope, don't want to save it, and we're good to go. Okay, so we're going to go back to working on the TAL distributors. And these exercises, again, they come out of your book, and I've written a couple different exercise sets. I use different ones, different terms. I have an e-commerce database set that parallels the TAL and Salmeris and Colonial exercises in the book. This term, because it's mostly an HCIT cohort, I wrote you guys up a special HCIT data set to look, hopefully, something like the kind of data that you might work with in your profession, lab codes and patient codes and admission records and that kind of stuff. Okay, so the first exercise in the original looks something like this, and the parallel exercise that is based on is the TAL. And these, again, this is just a select star. So these are you know, kind of, this first one is like what we just did in the book. So it says select all the rows and columns for the complete orders table. So we've already said use TAL. Now let's say select star from, and I like to, the computer does not care if I type it all on one line or I break it on separate lines. I'll tell you that when you're learning, and visually, when you're troubleshooting, it's much easier to have the individual components of the SQL command on separate lines. It makes it very easy to see what you may have left out or what you may have gotten wrong. So I recommend doing it this way. And we're going to get that from the orders table. Semicolon in the batch and run it, and there it is. Okay, so that wasn't any great excitement. Let's see what our next exercise looks like. So our next exercise, we have to put in a filter. That's known as a where clause. So the original exercise looks like this. It says, using the HCIT database, list only the first name and last name columns of customers that reside in a zip code above 5,000. There's some really, really important things in this deceptively simple problem that I want you to note. And I am going to end up taking points off people, and it aggravates me because I want to see you guys get all the points. So one of the things I'm telling you is I only want to see the first name and the last name, but you're going to do that based on customers that are in a zip code above 5,000. You're going, well, but Mr. Beck, I have to have zip code in there. It is true that you will need to put zip code in the logic. You do not need to put zip code in the display logic. So we're not going to select the zip code. Let's take a look at the comparable problem that we're going to solve, because I want to leave this for you to work on in your exercises. The parallel problem is number 3 in this chapter's TAL exercise. It says list the names of customers with credit card limits of $10,000 or more. So here's how I wrap my head around solving this problem. I emulate a great sculptor. I start with the whole block of stone, knowing that inside is a brilliant statue. All I have to do is remove the pieces that don't belong, right? Simple. I unlock the beauty within. Okay, so select the names of customers with credit. Well, customers, there you go. There's the noun I'm looking for. It's the customers table. Select star. We've already learned that one. Let's use what we've learned from customers. Okay, does that work? Nope. Why? Because customer is actually probably named in the singular, right? It's probably customer. And I can either go over here and look when it complains about that. I can look at TAL, look at the tables. Ah, customer, not customers. Okay. Or the other way I could do that, as I start to type it, notice IntelliSense is trying to tell me the right one. I could come down and select it, and let's run it. Okay. So far, so good, but I have not solved the problem because it says list the names of the customers, not everything else, with credit limits of $10,000 or more. Well, let's start by giving us everything. We'll start trimming down the name and the other fields later, but let's add the filter. So the filter says where something is true. Where what? Where credit limit, here's my field credit limit. And that's the nice thing about saying select star, because it shows me what the field name is. I could also, if I wanted to drill down further, I could go look in customers and I could look at the individual columns on that and get the name and say, oh, okay, there it is, credit limit. But either way is fine, okay? And so I want to say where credit limit, and I'll use IntelliSense to fill that out. And it says, where credit limit of $10,000 or more. Let me make the classic error that will cost you half a point. Where a credit limit greater than 10,000. Does everybody see what I blew? Greater than is not the, because it says with credit of $10,000 or more, not more than 10,000. So I need greater than or equal to. And let's do a sanity check. This is the other nice thing about having done a select star to begin with. If I look here, do I see that there's a $15,000 credit limit and that there are some $5,000 and $7,500 ones? So what should happen if this is correct? The ones that are less than $10,000 should go away, okay? Let's run it and see if that happens. Bam, yes, they did. Okay, so before in my giddiness and excitement and delight, I turn this in and lose half a point on a 1-point question. And points are important because there's only 100 of them in the class, plus extra credit opportunities. But a point is a percent of your grade, so every point really matters here. It said list the names of the customer. Now the customer name in this one is all in one field. Otherwise I might have a first name and a last name, but this one is just talking about one field. So instead of select star, I'm going to say, give me just the customer name. Okay, so now I've got it narrowed down, and have I now met the requirement? Now I can't really see, I had to trust on my previous logic, which is why I built it piece by piece. These are only the 4 customers that have a credit limit of $10,000 or more. But the other thing I want you to understand, I want you to really notice here, is even though I am doing my logic, my filtering, based on the credit limit field, there is no requirement for me to do this. I do not have to list it here. And I don't know why some students seem to pick up a superstitious belief that they can't do this unless they do this. And that's not the case. And why, the other reason I'm really a stickler for that is I want you to pick up the fastidious and kind of nitpicky habit of meeting requirements and reading and parsing business requirements. And the reason this is important has to do with monkeys and coconuts. I'll illustrate it this way. If I give you a requirement and I say, we're going to have a legal contract and I'm going to pay you and you're going to deliver it to get your money. And if you get it wrong, I'm going to sue you or there's going to be severe penalties. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to deliver to me for the fee that I will propose. a living organism that has these characteristics. It is arboreal, which is to say it's found in trees. It has hair. It gives milk. Consumers in North America usually encounter this organism in the close proximity of bananas, right? And it's native to tropical and semi-tropical areas, right? And you bring me a monkey and I sue you. And I say, clearly I asked you for a coconut. Lives in trees or found in trees. It's a living organism. It has hair, coconut hair, gives milk, coconut milk. Okay, so see why parsing requirements, even when we communicate with what seems to be really good specifications, is a tricky business. Okay, and so the better we learn that as DBAs, the better off we are, because an extra space or a missed comma in punctuation is the difference between, what's that in the road ahead and what's that in the road ahead. So it's important. It makes a difference. So I'm fastidious about that. I'm nitpicky, and yeah. All right. So how's your install going? Let me just check in with you.
I don't know, since it's hidden behind you. I don't know.
If you Alt Tab will switch your windows.
Okay.
And you can toggle through the available windows. I'll demonstrate that here as well. So right now I have my SQL Server Management Studio up, Alt Tab, and I can actually see the different windows that are available. So if I wanted to bring up my AWS grant, there it is. So I can toggle between these two windows. Handy.
Okay.
So.
Okay, it says everything succeeded except for the database engine servers and the SQL Server replication. Those both have fails on them.
The replication I'm not worried about. I am worried about the other one. Let me do this. Let me see if I can make you the presenter. I want you to show me your screen for a moment. Okay. So I've made you the host, and now you have a little control panel. And if you take that control panel and you go and show me your share out your desktop, should be one of the controls, then we can see what's going on with the error code.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, it says I cannot start screen share while other participant is sharing.
Oh, okay. Then let me go ahead and kill my screen share. Let's see, how do I do that? Okay. So I've stopped my screen share, and you can go ahead and share yours out.
Okay. Nope. Can you see it?
Oh, yes, I can. And I'm wondering why the engine failed. That's kind of that's bad news, because we need the engine. Oh, there you go.
And this is what it did to me.
If you
I had partial failure. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If you click on the database engine services, does it bring up the? There we go. Let's see what it says. Wait on the database engine recovery handle. Failed. Check the SQL Server error log for potential causes. and then there's a link to get help on that. Let me do a quick search on just that screen on that. Let's see here. It says wait on database engine recovery handle failed. So I'm checking that right quick to see if there are any notes. Ah, okay. So here is a potential solution, and I'm going to go ahead and take back the control.
Okay, so I just stop my share.
Yeah, stop your share, and then I can get the control back. And let's see here. And I'll share my screen back out. Okay. So what I found on that, it says go to the SQL Server Configuration Manager, right-click on the SQL Server service, and change the service account. If it is a local account, give it a window-level account, and vice versa. It might throw a WMI error, but you will see the account getting updated anyway. If not, then use the Services console. Change the account for SQL agent as well. Let me read through that because there are security implications to this.
Okay.
Okay, so that's possibility. I'm wondering if you may actually have a SQL Server engine already running. Is it possible you had another version of SQL Server installed?
When I did a search for it, it wasn't in here. There was nothing in here. So unless it was way in the background and it just did not come up when I looked for it, I don't know.
Okay, so we can check one other thing, and that is we can take a look at what services are running. So I'm going to show you how you would get to see what SQL Server services are running on your computer. So I'm going to click, are you running Windows 10?
I am.
Okay, so I'm going to click on the window, and I'm going to say control for control panel, and I'm going to click on control panel. And in control panel, I'm going to go over to the administrative tools, and I'm going to click on computer management. And when computer management comes up, I'm going to click on services and applications. And finally, I'm going to click on this one that says services. Okay. Once I've got the services screen up, I'm going to scroll down to the S's. And if it's not sorted alphabetically, if you click on name, you can sort it alphabetically. And I'm going to scroll down to the S's to find SQL Server. And I see on my computer, I have SQL Server running. I actually have SQL Server, an instance named CIS 117 installed. I have one called SQL Express installed. And then there are these agents and browsers and other things. But it's actually the servers that I'm interested in. And I'm interested to learn if there are any SQL servers that are actually installed, even if the state may not say running right now. Do they exist? Do you want to walk through and take a look at that?
Yeah.
Okay. As a matter of fact, if you like, let's see here. If you will give me remote control of your machine, I will do it for you.
Sure. How do I do that?
Okay, so it should show you a request. If you look on the little menu or the bar, that comes with Zoom. Mine says waiting for Shelly A to oh, I'm offering you my screen. Ah, never mind. That won't help you. Tell you, let me stop the share, and let me make you the host again. Where did it go? Ah, I lost my control panel.
There's mine.
Okay, there we go. So I'm viewing, and then if you invite me to share.
Okay.
And bring that in so make sure it stays in the recording. All right. So there's your if we can change the view I'm viewing your screen. Can you so I'll request remote control from you. Yeah. And then you just have to grant it.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to change the view here to the small icons view that I'm more familiar with. And I'm going to come to administrative tools. Oh, did I miss the click?
Right there. Second one from the top, computer management.
That's the second one
No,
from the top. I think
in
it's
the
color
underneath.
management. Let's see. I am seeing, I think, a different panel than you're seeing. Let me see if I hid the panel.
No, go back to the other page. Yeah, second one from the top under component service, under name. Did you say computer management up at the top?
Yeah, actually, I'm not seeing that screen, so I've done something.
Oh, okay, you're almost there.
Let's see if I can get this the screen to come back.
Okay.
Yeah, my links have all gone dead.
Okay.
On the screen. I have no control of your screen. So are you able to move the mouse, or have I got control?
I am.
Of your, okay, so see if you can click it and see if it'll refresh. That may unlock my view.
It says waiting for John Beck to control your screen. Yeah, it's not pulling it up. Hold on. Let me go back out. Okay, let's go back to this one.
So I've surrendered remote control. Okay, so let's, if you've got control now, just if you click on administrative tools and then bring up computer management.
Okay.
Are you seeing
And
the
then
computer management panel? Because I'm not seeing it at all.
Yeah, I am. And I got to services.
I wonder when you shared the screen, if you shared just the application rather than sharing the whole. Go back to your share screen. I think you've shared out only that window rather than the screen.
New share desktop.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Huh. Okay. I'm not able to see what you're seeing. Oh, there it is. Now it popped up. Okay. So, okay, you've got your services up and you're looking at it. I
Oh
think.
yeah, look. There's SQL right here.
Okay, so I see SQL Server Express, and it's set to start automatically, but it is not running successfully, and I only see the one instance of it. So if you right-click on SQL Server where it says SQL Express, is that the name that you gave it? You took the default? Tell it
Yeah.
start. Tell it start, and let's see if it starts or if it fails.
Hope it fails.
Okay. Windows could, your screen is much higher resolution, so I'm having trouble reading it on my screen. Windows could not start the SQL Server on local computer. Why?
For more information, review the system event log. If this is a non-Microsoft service, contact the service vendor and refer to the specific error code.
Yeah. So I think what we're seeing is there's a legacy. I don't think this is actually the engine that you installed. I think it was one that was installed by some other piece of software. There are other pieces of software that can install SQL Server. Usually multiple SQL servers can cohabitate quite nicely, but I've seen some problems. If you're running QuickBooks, certain other applications will run a SQL Server Express runtime. Certain Neat Scanner has a version that they run. But I have a feeling that that is part of our problem. If you're no longer using that, you can uninstall it. This is what's going on. We're not getting an install. When you go to install SQL Server, did it ask you to name the instance?
No, you said just to use the default, so I just
Right.
used whatever it picked up.
So what we might want to do is if you go and rerun the install, and it asks you for the name of the instance, then we'll actually we could do this now. Go ahead and start your install again.
Okay.
So wherever you downloaded the install
Go back
package.
and do it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what will happen is it may see that some of the components are there, and that's fine. What we want to do is we want to get the engine installed.
I did it through your link. Nope, wrong one.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So if you downloaded it and didn't tell it where else to download, it's probably in your file folder called Downloads.
Okay.
So if you
should I just go there?
Yeah, open up your Windows File Explorer, little folders, and then if you go over to the downloads, so that's underneath desktop on the left, there you go, and see if the SQL Server install is there.
I don't see it.
Do you recall if you happen to install it from a to install it to a different or download it to a different directory?
Maybe. Right here. You see it?
Yeah, there you go. SQL Express Windows. Okay, so let's open that up. And let's hit setup.exe. And let me ask you one other thing. Are you an administrator on your own machine?
It's my daughter's machine.
Do you have a separate account than she does?
Yeah.
Aha.
Yes, but I usually use hers. So.
Okay. Are you running her account? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you should be running that. Really? How do you want to open this file? And it's a setup.exe file, and it's asking you how?
Yeah.
That's just strange. That's rather bizarre. Let's see if we can cancel that, if you have a cancel option.
No, it doesn't. It just has okay.
Then let's scroll down under more apps and see if it has. Oops! Don't leave that running. We don't want to leave it orphaned. because we'll have 2 instances open. So I think it's, what is that first icon that was there?
This one here.
Yeah, is that the one that's, yeah, if we click on that? No.
Nope. This is the one I clicked on here.
Okay. All right. We may have another instance, another install started. Okay. Yeah. Click on more apps and see if there's an option, if we go to more apps, to just oh, we somehow got the CFG file rather than the exe file.
I hit the exe file.
Huh.
I'm gonna let you take control of it again, and so that you can.
Okay. Oh, you know what? That's setup.exe.cfg. I see. Your file extensions are hidden. So the one that says setup just above that, that's fine. We don't have. Yeah. Double click that. That'll start the setup.
Okay. So, and it's asking me, do you want to allow this to make changes to your device?
We do.
Yes. Okay, and you said to do it as a new standalone, right?
Yep, that's generally our preference.
Okay.
So if we've got an old enough version out there that's interfering with this for some reason, we may actually have to go upgrade it, but I'd rather leave things alone because I don't know what purposes those other SQL Server engines were serving, and I don't want to break anything.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you following this?
Yep, you're installing the setup files. Okay. Now, I can't quite read because the screen is Greeked. It's so my resolution is not as on my native screen is not as high as yours.
Okay.
So I'm not quite seeing it. But there's a choice. What's the top choice is perform a new installation. The other one is add features, and we have new. And then where it says the instance name, can we change? Is there an option to give it a different name or a new name?
No, I can't click on the only thing I clicked on was shared component, and it's not. I can't really do anything to it.
Those are the installed instances. Okay, so let's go ahead and click next and see if it gives you a chance to rename the instance once it gets started here.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Next. Okay, so the root directory.
Yeah, that's all fine. The defaults should be good there.
Okay.
And
Named instance.
okay, let's call it CIS 117.
Okay.
And don't
and then
need
the instance ID is also blank.
You can leave that blank, or you can make it CIS 117 is fine, and then just click next.
Okay. Validation errors. The name does not meet the instance naming rule for the SQL Server.
Oh, okay. Let's put the instance name doesn't. The ID did.
Yeah, I guess the ID was okay, but the instance name was the one that it said
Let's try CIS-117. It may have to be a minimum length or something. I'm not quite sure what the name is. Spaces probably are not permitted though.
Okay. Nope. It didn't allow that either. I'll try an underscore.
Okay. It should be able to leave the instance ID
and
blank.
it does need an instance ID.
Okay, so we
It
can
says
use
no. It says it's required.
Okay, then let's use exactly the same name for the instance ID and the named instance.
Okay. Okay.
And you did not do this before, right?
I did not.
Okay, so my guess
I
is,
don't remember it.
yeah, my guess is that there was a SQL Express, that's the default name, instance out there, and it wasn't intelligent enough to say, oh, I need to give it a different name than this. So I think we're in good shape here, but let's go ahead and try it. I know we're over time, and so Lene, I know if you need to take off, by all means do. And that's always the case on these meetings. You come and go as you please, but I'm going to stay with it because this sort of troubleshooting, we've gotten off of the parallel exercise, which is okay because I have prior lectures out there that cover that, but this troubleshooting may be useful to the next person. So we'll just stick with it, and if people find it useful, great, and if not, they know where the fast forward or the cancel key is on their video player. So.
Okay, so it has the SQL Server Database Engine, startup type automatic, and then it has the SQL Server browser disabled.
That's fine. You can go ahead and hit next. So one of the things that I will tell you for future reference, automatic means it's going to start every time you start Windows, and SQL Server eats a little resource. So what you might do in the future, after you're done with this class, you might come back to the SQL Server configuration tool and set it to, or even the services, you can set it right in the services and say, do not start this automatically with Windows, only start if I tell you to. And that way, or you could even, it's your daughter's machine, you could uninstall the SQL Server when you're done with the class, and then it will no longer be hanging out there eating resources.
Okay, all right. Is this page, the next page, okay?
I think it's asking you if you're going to use Windows authentication mode, and for this machine, that'll be fine. Basically, what that means is rather than having to keep a separate set of users and user accounts for the database than for the Windows computer you're running on, it's just going to use the Windows accounts. And so if you create new Windows accounts, so if you, right now you're running under your daughter's account, if you later log in under your account, you would have to add the privilege, go back under your daughter's account and add the privilege to your Windows account on her machine to run the database and to be a database administrator. The easier solution is if you're using her account now, just always use her account for the rest of this term, because we have a whole different class that teaches administration and authentication and user security and all that kind of stuff. So let's just keep it simple.
Yeah, I've been using her account. All my shortcuts and everything are on her account, so she didn't even have to make me one. It's only temporary.
Well, it's fair is fair. Our children use our credit cards, so we ought to be able to use their user accounts, right?
Thank you. It seems to be going faster than it did the last time, too.
Good. You know how my kids spell ATM?
Dad.
D-A-D. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're good kids, though.
Mine are, too, so I don't have any complaints. She's allowing me to take over her room. Nope, see, there it is again.
Oh, okay. Yep. So this is going to get messy. So if you and it's in the recording, the URL that has a walkthrough for how you can work around this. The other solution would be to see if we can uninstall. We go to Add Remove Software and uninstall the prior versions. I think what may actually be end up being easier. You've already applied for an Amazon Web Services account, right?
I have.
Okay. So if you like, I'll show you a little demo. The videos are out there, but I'd be happy to show you a demo of getting that started and using it.
Okay.
So, okay. All right.
I've kind of looked at all of your videos and then gone in depth at the ones, stop, start, so I can watch it along with what I'm doing. So, but yeah, let's go through that, because This is just gonna make me angry.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here.
So you want me to stop my share and give you back the control?
Yeah, I'm going to come back to sharing out my screen, and I think that should return everything to normal. So now I'm sharing out my screen again. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a browser. I can do this in just about any browser. My habit is to use Internet Explorer. And so I'm going to pretend for a moment that I am a student that has gotten their AWS Educate grant. And so I'm going to go to the AWS console. And if you forget where to find it, if you search on AWS Management Console or AWS, it'll find it. I'm going to go ahead and log in. All right. And if you start looking at all the services under AWS, it's a little overwhelming, all the stuff that is out there. They've kind of cleaned it up a little bit. It used to just have miles and miles of stuff, but there's still tons of stuff. So there's EC2, Elastic Compute in the cloud. There's RDS, remote database systems. There's the IAM. I'm going to look at and then all services. This is the whole ugly 9 yards. There's a lot of stuff out there. It can be really overwhelming. Okay, I'm just going to go to the EC2. That's what you want for our class. It's all we're going to play with is elastic computing. Okay. So when you first come in here, you know, mine says I have all these volumes and key pairs and all these other things, and I have a whole bunch of instances. If I go over and look at my instances, I have instances for all the classes that I teach, that I use web services for. You're not going to see those initially. You're going to have none of these, and you go, well, gee, I need one of Professor Beck's machine images. As a matter of fact, the one we're going to look for is SBCC CIS 117. How do I find that? Because right now we're pretending it would show me nothing. So if I come into under images, AMIs, Amazon Machine Images, and the other thing I want to do, depending on where they created your account, you may not be in the US West. They now have Northern California. That's where a lot of the people in this state would go. Back when I first set up, I think US West was all I had. They've now put that in Oregon. So I want to come to Oregon because if I search in Oregon, I will find what I'm looking for. And I don't want to see the machines that are owned by me, because when the student comes in, they don't have any that they own. So they're going to see nothing. So you come to public images, and there's a bajillion of them, okay? So what I want to do is I want to come into public images, and I want to come into the search box, and by the name, I'd like to find all the names that start with SBCC. And if I search on that in Oregon very quickly, I'm going to come up with all of the ones that Professor Beck has created. Here's the SBCC CIS 117. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to come up to Actions, and I'm going to say Launch. Now, I only have to launch it out of the images once, and then it becomes my very own image. I don't have to launch it this way again. I will, after now, I will have an instance after we do this. So in the future, I'll come into instances to launch it. But the very first time, I need to launch a copy of it. Launching it will create a copy, and it's going to say, well, how big and bad a machine would you like? And you're like, holy smokes, Professor Beck, you didn't tell me anything about this. How big a machine do I want? You know what? I've kept it at the cheapest tier that will do the job for our class. Even though they're giving you a grant, let's not use any more money than we have to. And if we simply, rather than going next to next to next to next, all the defaults are fine. If I say review and launch, it will go, it'll tell me stuff about you can make your security better, you can do all these things. I don't care, it's fine. We're going to just launch it. and it says, well, what about this key pair and all this? And if you don't have it, you won't be able to log into your machine. I'm going to tell you what the administrator ID and password are for this machine, so you don't need a key pair. The administrator name is capital A and then lower the rest of it, administrator, and the password for the machine is going to be, what was the machine instance? Oh yeah, it was SBCC-CIS117, all caps. That's the password. Now, once you have logged into the machine successfully, you should probably change the password, because if some of your friends in the class think it amusing to play with your machine, they could do so if they know the ID and the password and a couple other things that they could probably guess about it. So I'm going to go ahead and say launch the instance. Oh, that's not enabled until I acknowledge that if I don't have the key pair, or in this case, the ID and password, I'd be in trouble. I'm going to go ahead and launch it. Okay. This will take a few minutes, because what it's going to do is it's actually going to make it a copy of that machine, including its 40 gigabyte drive, or 30 gigabyte drive, I think it is. And so it will take a little while for that to go. And you can either continue here and keep watching it, or you can go back over to, now when you come in to the EC2 services and look at your running instances. Okay, so here's a machine that has not yet been named that is running, but it's in the initialized state. It's not really up and ready for use, but I can go ahead and give that a name. So I'm going to name it in honor of you, Shelley. And what I need to do is wait for that machine to finish initializing. And again, the very first time you do that, because it's got to allocate all that storage and copy, it basically is copying a 40 gig or 30 gig drive over here. It will take a few minutes for that to initialize. Once it does, we'll be ready to connect to it. That may take a little bit of time. So rather than spending your time on that, I'm going to uncheck that, and I'm going to start the original instance that I copied that from. You won't have that. You would just have the one. So the very first time you're going to have to wait for that, but it might be quicker if I just go ahead and launch this other instance. So I'm going to go ahead and change the instance state. And this is an example of next time you come in to use this, you're going to come in through the EC2 dashboard. You're going to come to instances, not to AMIs, because you don't need another, you don't need a second or a third, or you could run 3 or 4 or 5 machines if you wanted to. It doesn't buy you anything in this class. We only need one. And so I would come down to my machine, I would select it, and I'm going to change the instance state to start.
Okay.
It says, do you want to start it? Yep, I sure do. So this one should initialize, I think, a lot more quickly, but we'll see who comes up first. We'll use whichever one comes up first. And I'm impatient, so I'm going to hit the refresh and see if they're still both in the initializing state. My guess is that the one that has been running, that I've run before, has all its resources, should go through the boot process a lot quicker than the one that's still waiting on storage. Sometimes the storage allocation is a little slower. It takes a little while. Still showing as initializing. And I'm going to take a guess that their engine that pulls to see what state it's in is maybe running a little bit behind. So I'm going to guess that this one is actually in a state that I can connect to it. So I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to click on connect, and it will say, well, do you want to download the remote desktop file? I'm going to say, yeah, let's do that. Okay, and I'm just going to open that file once it downloads. And that file has all the dynamic information about the IP address that machine has been assigned. And I'm going to go ahead and trust the connection anyway, even though I don't know the publisher, because I do know the publisher, it's me. And here's the one tricky part. This is going to connect me as the administrator, but not the administrator of that machine. It's trying to use my local administrator account, which I have not set up with privileges on that machine. So I need to do something that's not obvious here. This is the only thing that bugs me. I haven't been able to figure a way around this for you guys. You need to go to more choices, tell it use a different account, and just use plain administrator. Okay, and then the password CIS-11. Oh wait, it wasn't CIS-117. What was the instance called again? It was SBCC. SBCC-CIS-117. If I've done that right now, didn't fat finger it, I'll say OK. And it says, do you want to allow this? Yes, again, I trust it. And look at that. Now, it looks as if that's just my local computer, but it's really the remote computer. And here's the cool thing. There's a link already provided to you for your SQL Server Management Studio. If I click that, it'll launch. If I tell it connect, the very first time, it may say, wow, this doesn't match the machine that you were installed on. So I may get a temporary error, didn't even get that. Okay, so it went through fine. If I look at my databases, there they are. There's the HCIT, and now I'm ready to start working on exercise number 1. And so I can say, give me a new query. And I'll go look at whatever my instructions were for it, which say something like, go say select star from the admissions table. So we'll say use HCIT, and then select star from, and I like to keep a good habit, put that on the second line, from admissions, and IntelliSense still works just like usual. And let's see if we run that, and there it is. So I can take my screenshots on my, from my local machine, so I can create my Word document on the local machine. That's probably the easiest way to do this. So I'm working on a remote machine. I'm going to do all my screenshots and my documentation on my local machine, and I'll submit the Word document I create to Canvas for my local machine. And the only thing I need to do, this is like a taxi with the meter running. So if I come up here and hit this to close it and disconnect, that machine is still running. I'm still paying that taxi driver. So how do I make sure that I go, and let me take this and slide it out of the way so you can see that underneath there, actually let me minimize the whole thing, is still our console, and it shows this running. And now, by the way, they passed the checks. Both those machines are running. I could connect to the second machine if I wanted to. Okay, so in order to make sure that this machine is stopped, I can come back to this is the Windows bar for the remote machine, and then I can come up here and tell it power options shut down, and it'll say, why are you doing this? Why are you shutting down a server? Because this is a server I'm running. Other unplanned is just fine, and I'll tell it continue. It'll start to shut down. At some point in the shutdown, it's going to drop my connection. I'll go ahead and tell it shut down anyway. It's just going to kill those applications. Now it dropped the connection, and notice that here it still says running for a couple minutes, but if I refresh this, it has gone to a stopping state, and that means as soon as it says it's going to the stopping state, I've stopped paying the taxi driver. The meter's no longer running. So still running on this other one over here. And let me show you one other thing, and that is if you need to come here to change the instance state, you change the instance state to what? You would change it from stopped to start. We did that initially, or from start to stop. I've never had a student have to do this, but if it's Windows. If it hangs up the machine, you can also force it to reboot. I need to warn you about terminate. Terminate is terminate in the Arnold Schwarzenegger sense of terminate. When you're terminated, your disk goes into the hot lava pool and melts. It's all gone, right? So you never want to do that till the end of the course. Now, if you do, you know how to copy an AMI, that's fine. You can always make a new one. The problem is if you had, a whole bunch of work that you had saved on, queries on the remote machine, you made them go away. So I'm going to do here what I told you never to do, because I don't need this, I pay even for the storage of this image a few pennies, and I am the cheapest scoundrel you'll ever meet. So I'm going to come over here,
Yep,
and I'm going to, yep.
Hold on.
Yep.
Don't you have both of them lit up?
I do. Thank you very much. Ouch. Okay. Yeah.
That would have hurt.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. Let's take the instant state on this first. Oh, I don't want to connect back. Let's take the instant state and turn this to stopped. Yeah, stop. So this is the other way. I didn't log on to shut that machine down. I just told it from the console to stop it, and it'll take a moment to go into the stopped state.
So that will do the same thing as going back to the remote console and doing the power button.
It's either one is like pushing the power button. Yeah, that's exactly right. But once this has finished stopping, and I can now, right now I can't select the instance again. I have to wait for it to finish the action. And I'm impatient, so I'm continuing to refresh, because the little graphic doesn't really mean it's doing anything. It just sits there and spins, and every few seconds we'll get a refresh. I don't know what they set the refresh rate is, so I'll force it. Okay, good. I'm stopped, and so this is the instance I want to terminate in the Arnold Schwarzenegger sense. Goodbye, Sarah Connor. Not this one, not that one, just this one. Come up here, actions, and I want to go to instant state and terminate. Goodbye, Shelly A. And that's really gonna get rid of your storage and everything. Are you sure, mate? And I'd say yes, and don't call me mate. And so it is in the process of making that instant state go away.
Okay.
All right. So that's the full tour there. So your other alternative, troubleshoot according to the link that was in the video, where we went out and researched. All I did was I did a Google search on that exact phrase to find out, find a blog, Microsoft support forum where they'd solved that problem before. The other thing I suspect will solve it is if you go into add remove programs in Windows and remove all of your SQL Server, your old legacy stuff. It looked to me like something that had been installed and is no longer being used and is now abandoned because it wasn't running and we couldn't get it to start running. So
Right.
I think it's an old fractured instance, and that's probably part of the problem. Whatever broke it is stopping us from cohabitating with it or removing it. So, okay, so now Shelly is terminated, and it'll persist out here for 5-10 minutes. I've seen it sometimes up to an hour. At some point, we'll come back and refresh, and the terminated is, or we log off and log back on. The terminated instance, there will no longer be a record of it there. Okay, so if it's not there, then you're not being charged anything for it. So that would be your other alternative if you can't get SQL Server squared away, and they should have your account set up pretty quickly. As I said, the week 1 stuff, if it costs you another day, stuff is due tomorrow. I'm going to be real flexible this first week, so because of the problems with getting everybody enrolled. So if it takes an extra couple days to do that, to get your week 1 work in, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions or anything for me? And thank you. I've kept you far over time. This is going to be a long video, and I apologize for that. But everybody can always, hit the slider bar to speed through it and not watch the parts that don't interest them.
Oh, I appreciate it because you helped me with my problem. So that's okay.
All righty. Anything comes up, email me, post to the Q&A, or pick up the telephone and call me. I don't mind being called. And in fact, I've got my my Santa Barbara City College phone, because I'm only physically in my office, 5 or 6 hours a week. The rest of the time, I'm in a classroom or meetings or somewhere else. And I teach so much online. A lot of it is off campus. But if you call my campus phone between 9 in the morning and 8 at night, it will hunt down my cell phone number and ring my personal cell phone number. And outside of that time, it won't ring my phone, but what it will do is it will take your message that you leave, and it'll convert it to text. It'll do speech recognition on it, and it will send me a text message. So if it's outside of my normal hours, I'm at least aware that you're trying to get a hold of me. And if it's urgent, I will do my best to get back to you, even on a weekend or something like that. I do have a so-called life, which is mostly spent in grading and curriculum development. It may be tough for me to get back to you on the weekends, but not impossible, and I'm happy to do so.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Well, you have a pleasant evening, and keep the questions coming.
I will. You too.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and terminate the meeting now. Thanks a lot.
All right. Good night.